Hey e-skaters, Nate from eSkate Hub here, and today we're going to be looking at the Xway app. It is full of features and customization options so that you can create your own riding experience that is perfect for your riding needs. So there's a ton to go through. It's going to be a little bit slow, I suppose, because we're going to be looking at the app, it's a little bit of the board, but there's not going to be a whole lot of riding footage, if at all any. What do you think of my new jumper, or a sweatshirt as the Americans might call it? My friends made this for me for my birthday a few years ago, and it's kind of cold today, so I thought I'd chuck it on and do this video. I'll be doing all of this with the Xway Flex. However, the app also works for all of Xway's boards, including the X1, the X1 Pro, the Wave, and the new Atlas, which is coming out very, very soon. All right, enough talking. Let's get straight into this app deep dive. As you can see, I've got the Xway app on my home screen. It's not centered because I'm a psychopath. Xway app logo pops up. Let's turn on the remote here, shall we? Hold this down. Turns on. The board has automatically turned on because it was in standby mode, which is something we'll discuss a little bit later on in the app. Hit connecting devices, select your board. Mine's Nate Flex because I've already named it to be Nate's Flex. Give it some time to load up, 8 seconds exactly. So at the top here, you can see the information. I've got the Flex, I'm connected, my firmware version, and the ID code, which is the name of the board. You can change it here, hit done. This is gonna say it's failed, yep, because I didn't change the name. It's exactly the same as the old one. Here we got the odometer, which is the total amount of distance that I've ever traveled. So far, it's only 62.6 kilometers. That's because I haven't been able to ride it much since I did the review. And you've got the reduced carbon emissions. I'm not exactly sure how they measure that, but I'm going to assume it is the amount of emissions that you would have created if you were driving a car during those kilometers that you were actually riding an electric skateboard. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I think it is. Down here, we've got safe mode. So safe mode allows you to limit the highest available gear. So if I whack that on and it's on 2, that means that you won't be able to use the remote to go any higher than level 2. This is good if you've got kids or a partner that is not that confident riding. You can put the safe mode on and limit their speed and power and braking, all things that we'll see later on, and just to keep them safe and that they don't overuse the board to their ability level. I'm gonna whack that off for now. Standby mode, which was what I mentioned earlier. So what standby mode is when you turn the remote off, it automatically turns the board off, but it doesn't turn it completely off. It puts it into this idle mode where it'll just be listening for the remote and uses minimal amount of power, so it won't run the battery that dry. That means the next time you go to ride, you can just turn your remote on and it'll automatically turn the board on and you can get going straight away. That's cool because that means you don't have to bend over and turn the board on every single time you want to go for a ride. So you can turn that on and you can set the time period in which the board will stay in standby. So if you set it to 2 hours, it means that the board will turn off into proper off after 2 hours of being in standby. So if you're the kind of rider who only rides, say, on the weekends, and you set it to 7 day, that means the board will stay in standby for 7 days. So every weekend when you go and pick up your board, the standby will still be on and you'll only have to hit the remote. However, if you change it to something like 1 day, then that's only 24 hours that the board will be in standby mode. Great for people who ride to work every single day. Change gears while moving. When that's on, it means you can change the mode that you're riding in. You can change, so what that means is that when it's change gears while moving. So when that's on, while you're, so when that's change gears while moving. So when that's on, while you're moving on the board, you're able to cycle through the gears. But keep in mind, while you're accelerating, you can't use this button. It basically becomes dead except for one other function, which I'm going to be talking about in just a sec. When it's off, you have to come to a complete stop before you can cycle through the modes. It's really how much of a confident rider you are, will depend on whether you have that on or off. Free mode is related to the reverse functionality. So if you're familiar with how the booster boards used to work, when you pulled back on the thumb wheel, you would come to a complete stop and then you would move into reverse. So you can seamlessly go from accelerating forward to reversing backwards. If free mode is off, the way you get into reverse is by triple clicking this mode button and then pushing the thumb wheel forward to go backwards, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but I like that mode better than the free mode, because when you're braking, if you're just not used to it, then coming to a complete stop and then the board instantly reversing can be a little bit confusing. That just comes down to experience and personal preference. Next up on the list is cruise control. So I mentioned that when the board is accelerating, that button becomes dead. Well, that's not the case in cruise control. When you're accelerating, all you have to do is double click that mode button and the board goes into cruise control and will continuously ride at that speed until you either click that button again or use the thumb wheel in any direction. That cruise control is only limited to a speed under 20 kilometers an hour. That's just something that X-Ways imposed as a safety precaution. Turbo. When this is on, your board gets a little bit more power, so you get harder acceleration and harder braking, but it's at the expense of a little bit of range. If you check my X-Way Flex review, it's the most previous video that I did my range test in turbo mode. So you can check that video to see what kind of range you can expect when the board is in turbo. If you'd like me to do a range test of the Flex where the board is not in turbo and give you an idea of how much power you actually do lose, then let me know in the comments below and I'll do it pretty much straight away. The power system mode is important to have selected correctly because it's going to make the whole riding experience run smoothly. The ESC and the BMS are going to act differently depending on which system you have got. So it's absolutely imperative that you select the right system in the app for the motors that you have installed on your board at the time. The next one is transmission ratio, and this only applies to the ride kit. I'm going to quickly change over to the ride kit. Even though I've got hubs on the board, I'm not going to go riding in this situation. I'm just doing this so that I can show you the transmission ratio. It defaults to 255 to 255, which is really weird. So what you got to do is you got to go in here and you got to change your drive gear, which is the gear that is on the motor, and the pulley, which is the gear on the wheels. This correlates to the number of teeth that are on these gears. So on your drive gear, you've got 14 teeth as default, and on your wheel pulley, you've got 36 teeth on the wheel pulley. So hit OK, that'll pop up there. If you're going to put on cloud wheels and choose to put on the 44T wheel pulleys, make sure you pop back in here and change that 36 to a 44. Wheel size is also a very important one because this actually does change how the ESC gives out its power. I accidentally went riding on the belt drives with the wheels set to 2 millimeters and I had all sorts of problems with the acceleration. It just could not get me moving. I couldn't figure it out until I popped into this app to figure out what was going on. So the stock wheels are 85 millimeters. Yep, make sure you've got them in there. You could also have the 105 cloud wheels or the 120 cloud wheels. So make sure you put the right ones in there. What I'll also mention here is that when you come into the app, sometimes the transmission ratio and the wheel size will default back to 255 and 2 millimeters respectively. So whenever you make a change in the X-Way app, make sure you double check the transmission ratio and the wheel size to make sure that they haven't defaulted to a number that is not correct for your setup. All right, down here is the fun part. This is the advanced section. I've currently got it set to custom because I've changed all of my settings here, but there are some basic presets. You've got defaults, where the acceleration curve in Gear 4 only maxes out at 33%. The braking curve stays at 100 and the current at 100. I'm gonna get to what each of these mean in a sec. Willow, drop it. Good girl. Where's your toy? Get your toy. Go get your toy. No, that's a stick. It's my paint stick. Come on, come on.
What?
Your toy. Come on. Get it. Good girl. Puppies. She's a good dog. Let's get back to it. That was default. There's also the race configuration, which makes it a little bit more powerful, mainly in the acceleration, but it's still not at 100% in fourth gear. So of course, we're gonna whack it in to custom and make it our own. I'm gonna chuck my fourth gear up to 100%. Yes, it has a little bit of teething issues. Sometimes it doesn't go where you want it to go. So you're gonna have to play around with it a little bit. X-Way hopefully are gonna fix that issue, but in the meantime, it's not too bad. Sometimes you just gotta click sliders a couple of times. Oh, there it goes again, down 100%. I don't know what's going on. So the acceleration curve is basically the time it takes for the acceleration to reach its maximum power. So if you've got it set really low at say 20%, then the curve's gonna look like this, really, really slow. But if you've got it at 100%, the curve's gonna look like this. It's gonna creep up to its maximum power a lot faster. You get two different settings for the braking. One is the curve and one is the current. For the braking curve, it's similar to the acceleration curve. It's the time it takes for the board to get to its maximum braking power. So at 100%, it's gonna be a really fast and sharp climb up to its maximum power. On a less percentage, say 20%, it's gonna be a more gradual climb to its maximum power. As for the current, that is the power of the braking. So at something like 20%, even 50% or lower, it's gonna be quite low. So from 0, apply the brakes, 20% braking power, it's gonna take you a lot longer for those brakes to bring you to a complete stop. Whereas at 100%, the power possibility is much higher, meaning it can bring you to a stop much faster. Lastly, at the bottom here is the firmware upgrades. I was gonna check to see if I need a firmware upgrade. Check out the flex. Yep, I do need an upgrade. I'm not gonna do it right now because I'm filming this video, but I'll do it later on, don't you worry. If we head over to Dash, there are a bunch of different specs and metrics that we can have a look at. So right in the middle is your current speed. So as you accelerate on the remote, you'll also be able to see the speed that you're doing on the app. That's cool and all, but the speed is also on the remote. I don't know if I'll be having the remote and the phone in my other hand to check exactly what speed I'm doing. You can see your battery level as a percentage. That's also nice, but you can also see that on your remote. One handy feature I like about the app is the remaining distance. So this is a calculated distance that the app thinks that you're gonna be able to get before your battery runs down to 0. It's handy for planning your rides, but make sure you keep an eye on it because it doesn't take into account factors like how steep the hills are gonna be, how heavy you are, what kind of riding you're doing, how fast you're gonna accelerate, all those kinds of things that can significantly affect the total distance. This metric here in the middle of the top row is the distance. That is your distance that you've done on this trip. I'd be really interested to see what the distance remaining is and then go out for a ride and compare what your actual distance was. Other things you've got here are your power output percentage. So when you're riding in, maybe if you happen to go on grass or some loose gravel or you're going up a steep hill, your power output is going to be much, much higher. There is no resistance on this board right now, so you're only getting 1.4% power output, which is next to nothing. But once I stand on the board, that will pop up significantly. Other interesting things are your voltage coming out of the battery, and you can also see the temperatures of the battery, the ESC, and the motors. So you can keep an eye on them, make sure they're not overheating. It's important to keep these temperatures down and steady so that nothing overheats. You can see that the ESC is getting pretty warm. It's probably because we've been messing around with the app. So you can change your units by going to settings, units, and miles. That's going to connect with the remote. Hit save changes. So now you can see everything is in miles. Just a quick note that the remote is still in kilometers per hour. While you're there, you can also change your language. I'm assuming that's Chinese Mandarin. I apologize for my ignorance if that's incorrect. And the about, we can see some information about Xway and how to contact them. Lastly, the last thing I want to show you is over here on the tutorial side, you've got a quick start guide, which will show you a few handy tips on how to ride the electric skateboard safely and properly so that you don't hurt yourself. Manuals, I don't want to open manuals right now because the last time I did, it took forever to load. It actually didn't end up loading. I quit before I could be patient enough to wait for it. And lastly, at the bottom is the FAQ, which has just got a bunch of frequently asked questions. Nothing that important really. I did it. Let's see what happens. Maybe it's already preloaded them. I think I just made a huge mistake. Yep, I'm not waiting for this. Let's close that. All right, so last thing I want to share as a bit of a bonus is some settings on the remote. Let me come around and give you a better look at this. Okay, so here is the remote. If you hold down the power button while it turns on and then keep holding it, you come into this little settings section. Now, I don't know if I can get this focus to be very, very good, but let me see if I can walk you through it. So at the top, we've got repair. That is for pairing this remote to another one of Xway's boards, just in case you've got two boards and you only want to use one remote. So the calibration is going to calibrate the distance for the thumb wheel. So let's go ahead and give that a crack. We've got the forward thumb wheel position, the middle thumb wheel position, and the reverse thumb wheel position. You got your remote firmware version, all your serial numbers and that kind of thing. And your speed unit, this is the one I really wanted to show you. You can swap it down to miles per hour if you wanted to, and then you can exit out, and there you go, your board's in a different speed unit. Alright, e-skaters, that is everything there is to know about the Xway app. I think I've covered everything. If I haven't, drop your questions down below in the comments. I will make sure that I answer that for you because that's my job. I'm here to help you find the best electric skateboard for you. If I've helped you out at all, please smash that like button and subscribe to join the eSkate crew because I've always got new electric skateboard reviews, news, and giveaways like those orangutan wheels that are flying out the door very, very soon. All of those details can be found in the Xway Flex review video. And that's it. As always, e-skaters, please ride safe out there and I'll see you soon.